everyone, Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters. So I just wanted to mention right off the bat that this is probably not one of my favourite layouts at all. I was really happy with the initial idea and the concept, and I would definitely be doing this idea again, but the actual logistics behind it coming together and the actual prettiness and all the things that I chose just didn't mesh quite in the way that I would have liked them to, or that they have done in the past. So anywho, on with what I'm doing. So I am using the waste or the negative part of the beautiful star cut file that you may have seen in my Bellywhacker layout, and I love this cut file. This cut file is gorgeous, and so what I'm doing is I've stuck it down onto a sheet of this nice sort of pastel green, and I'm putting all the stars back on top where they would belong, so looking at their different shapes and everything. And I also kept a few of the little cut out bits that need to be used to fill the gaps, just to make sure those stars are really sharp, I suppose, or directly in their shape. And so I'm going to put some mixed media on here. I'm going to keep some and glue them down flat. I'm going to glue some up on foam, just a little bit of a mix. So I'm making sure I've got the stars the correct orientation, because I want them to fit sort of as nicely as they can within those little gaps. Now I noticed when I was doing this that there were really only 3 basic sizes, and so I didn't have to fiddle around with which star went where specifically, just as long as the small ones are in the small spots and the medium ones in the medium spots, etc. That was fine. They all fit. Any medium star fitted in a medium hole, if that makes sense. So now I'm just going to glue down random ones that I think I would like to be glued, and all the smallest ones are going to be glued down because they're too tiny to try and put up on foam. That wouldn't work. So once all of those are glued down, then I select the ones that I think I'd like to put up on foam. But because I know I want to do some mixed media, I also don't foam them straight away, if that makes sense. I actually put some double-sided tape on the back of them. Actually, it's not double-sided tape at all. It is washi tape that I've folded around on top of each other, so it's double-sided. And I use that just to hold them in place, so that when I'm doing my mixed media on top, all of the stars can have a little bit of mixed media happening to them. So I'm just going through and gluing down, as I said earlier, any random ones, no real rhyme or reason to it. And then this is when I pull out the washi to do sticking down of the other ones. Had a bit of a fight with my washi there. So just doing the whole rollover thing, and I'm looking for all the ones that I haven't glued on, and I'm going to pop some washi on the back of those just to hold those in place. So then once I've done that, I'm going to pull out a star stencil and some paints. So my paint colours were chosen based on the collection I'm using, which is the Pink Fresh Studios collection called Everyday Musings. Turns out I probably didn't need to match this collection so much, because I actually didn't end up using a lot of it, and the colours I chose there are gorgeous colours and they look great and they match the Everyday Musings really well, but they end up being really bright on the page when I don't actually use very much of the ephemera pack. So next time if I was going to do this, I'd probably tone down my colour choices a little bit too bright for me. That's my first thing that I noticed. Then the second incident, oh hello mister, there you go. The second incident I had was my dauber, which is clearly not a dauber, it is a makeup sponge is far, far, far too big. And so I ended up with colour going outside of the stencil. And of course that didn't, I mean, I tried using the other end, which is a bit smaller, and that was much better. But of course, having a bit of a messy paint job also upset me in terms of how this looks. I really should have been a bit more patient and let each colour dry after each application, but of course can't do that. And I also probably should have been a bit more careful and washed the stencil after each colour application. I also didn't do that. I washed it after 2. Anywho, live and learn, stop rushing, basically. So, as I said, the general idea is great. It was just my colour choices and just the general busyness of what was going on here just didn't quite come out the way I had initially planned. Having said that, I've made this layout sound dreadful. You've seen the thumbnail. It's not dreadful. It's certainly not one that I'm going to, skip past in the album or redo or anything like that. It's just not my favourite. So I do all of those, and then, excuse me, mister, have you found some of mummy's things? Plastic's probably not a good toy for you to play with. Sorry about that. So I then decided to pull out the gold. Obviously, I already had the gold pulled out, but I decided I wanted gold because there's quite a bit of gold in the Everyday Musings collection, and I'm thinking that I'm going to use gold thickers for my title. And then a lot of the Everyday Musings have sort of gold accents on them, so I just want to keep tying that gold all in and throughout. So you can see there, looking at the layout, like looking at it there, it looks really cute. What a great idea. So definitely try this, but maybe just, when you're doing it at home, just tone it down. Just go easy. Go easy. I was all in. That was my problem. I was all in. So anyway, this recording starts to go a little bit crazy in a minute because I show you a lot of sorry, I smudged a little bit of my paint, so I'm trying to fix it, and then I end up with more paint smudged, and in the end I just stop because it's going to get too busy, and I put it away and I clean it and I leave that to dry because I'm not happy with all the smudge marks that are already on it, so let's just walk away. So it is still wet currently. I haven't left it to dry yet. I'm popping up. It's a really, I've got the heater on and I'm literally sitting over a heating vent here. So pretty much every colour is already dry except for the gold that I've just done. So I'm just popping up the stars that don't have any gold paint on them so that they don't smudge, obviously. And I'm just popping those up on a bit of foam. I'm just looking for any of the ones that were stuck down with the washi tape. And again, it's looking really cool, so really happy with that. So as I was mentioning before when I got sidetracked, this video starts to go a little bit crazy in a minute. I've kept in pretty much the entire process I went through of trying to embellish this layout until in the end I stop. I send a message to my sister going, help, I hate it, help. Yes, very drastic. The word hate, very drastic. And between her messaging me back and giving me suggestions, I had a little bit of a play off screen. And so it will cut back to me gluing everything down, and it will be quite different to how I'd last left it because I did, a little bit of changing off screen because it was just, driving me bonkers. So I have put that down to dry. Can I have that just for a minute? I've put that down to dry on the air vent that's literally at my feet, and I am now backing my photograph. So it's a really cute photo of mine and Katie's mum and dad with our boys. We sillily took the family photo at the end of the day. So the two little boys are tired. The biggest boy is also very tired because we've been at a park and he has been playing all day, and he doesn't want to cooperate. He doesn't want to take a photo, but we get there in the end. So I was just putting on a layer of paper, but then realized that this is the only piece of this little paper that I've got, and I really love it, and that I've got an idea in mind of how I want to use it. So I just cut that middle section out that you don't actually see anyway, because I'm thinking I might need it on this layout, which now I can tell you I'm glad I did that, because I did need it on this layout. So just getting all of my ephemera out. That is dry, so I've got that out. I'm thinking the photo in the center there, it's got a tiny bit warped because it was literally sitting on top of the ducted heater. It does flatten back out because it wasn't actually that much paint. It was just because it was having hot air blowing directly on it. So the photo A needs to go where it is because there's a bit of a smudge, but B because it's in the center, which is a nice spot. I'm currently working on the two other big smudges that I have on the page that I really want to cover because I'm not happy with those. And this was why I kept that bit of paper, because I thought this little rip technique would work well. I didn't want the green from behind the cut file showing through, so I was just tearing that little bit off from the back so you can only see white. And I'm I'm gluing on with my white glue. Now I've mentioned this numerous times, but people like to ask, Montmarte, Montmarte PVA craft glue, clear drying, non-toxic. So that's why I wanted to keep it, because I thought that might work well for those two smudge sections. So I'm just popping that, the tear technique with the little bit of colour poking through behind, and those colours work really well because they're the colours that I used on the paint, and it's also obviously a piece of the paper that's in behind the photo, so that looks really cute. And just another way to cover up those smudges, but it's still quite a big smudge happening down in the bottom left hand corner that I want to keep fiddling around with. But nothing really seems to fit there. I'm trying as many things as I can, but it's just not quite right. You can see that I've sped this up quite a bit because it really was a lot of fiddling around for me here. So I wanted to go with the word happy because they're my happy little family. And I'm thinking that I will get another set of 6 stickers to write family in. Here we go. Very original title. Hello, monkey. You can come up and say hello to everyone, but we can't see them. Oh, you've got one on my hair, so that wouldn't be very yummy. So little Thomas is doing great guns at the moment. He pretty much sleeps all night now after we've been to sleep school, which is amazing. So for those of you that have been following Thomas's sleep school story, he went from waking every hour for 2 or 3 months. From about 4 months to 6.5 months, he was waking every hour. Little Lincoln was sleeping way better than he was. To now, after a week at sleep school, we sleep all night, don't we? Yeah. And he's a happy little chappy, which is lovely. I was very lucky. He wouldn't sleep, but he was always so happy and so smiley and not a crying baby. So even though we were both tired, he at least was not exhausting during the day as well. Well, no more than a normal baby. So, I put a few layers behind the photos, as you can see, and then I pulled out the acrylic hearts because I know that I got a bit stuck, and I pulled out my layout, the belly whacker layout, because I knew that I'd used the acrylic hearts on the belly whacker layout, and that seemed to work really well. So I pulled out that layout and had a look. I was like, oh yeah, right, well, I've got more of those acrylic hearts. I'll put those on. And honestly, at this stage, it's really just starting to look like I've thrown up ephemera all over my page. There's paint hearts going everywhere. There's ephemera going everywhere. There is tiny word phrases now going everywhere. Like, it is just turning more and more and more into a disaster. So it is getting to the time where I message it to my sister and go, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. She is my go-to. She is the person that pulls my layouts out of a big hole if they happen to fall in one. And yeah, I'm just, I was starting to think maybe I could fussy cut some of those little flowers out, butterflies out. So I'm back, completely new lighting. I have, as I said, discussed it with Katie. I did a few of these things on my own. For example, I turned the stars because I felt the flow of the stars was better going that way. She suggested I needed to get stars instead of love hearts. So I went digging to see what I could find, and I found some wood veneer stars. I found some just punch stars that I already had someone had sent to me in like a Happy Mail. So they're in like this beautiful shiny peach color, which tied in well. I found some button stars, and then I found a few like bling stars. So I now have just got stars, and more stars everywhere. But I feel that looks better because it is like what the layout is. So I haven't introduced 101. Really? 101 hearts. I've introduced 1,001 stars. But I think because it's all stars, that's not so bad. I also pulled out all of the ephemera from behind the photo and just left it with the layers I'd put, like the mat I'd put behind the photos were the only layers that we were having. I really want to keep that little music notes thing more for us, not because it actually goes with the layout, but my family's really musical. Like Katie and Danny and Lincoln are really musical, and my dad plays an instrument, and I'm really musical. So just because it was sentimental to us, so that's getting tucked into that little tear up there. And then the one down the bottom says, "You are the music in me." So I really wanted to keep those two bits on the page somewhere, and that gorgeous gold flower also covers up that big smudge that I was really grumpy about before. So it's kind of works both, kills two birds with one stone. So I'm feeling it looks a bit better now with all of with just stars happening on the page. I've got out a few really tiny pearl enamel dots, but they're not enamel, they're pearls, really, really tiny ones, which also I think goes well just to go in the little tiny little star clusters. Then I'm flicking on some gold Heidi Shine, and I also put on a little bit of navy Heidi Shine, and that seems to be okay. So I'm coming to the end, and I'm like, all right, I think we've resurrected it. I think it was just way too busy before. I was trying to do far too much. I was treating it like it was a standard layout. When it already had such a busy background, it didn't need such busy embellishing. So you can see all the different dimension there. Sorry about the lighting. It is quite late at night. But I had to get this done. I couldn't have it sitting around for longer. It was going to make me cry. So you can see the initial idea is really great, but it just took me a little bit to execute it correctly. So I am, in the end, a lot more happier with it than I was, or that I was going to be. You can see there in the close-ups all the beautiful dimension, all the beautiful colour, all the beautiful textures with the shine and the smooth and the ripped parts, and there's just a lot going on in this layout. So I hope you liked it. I hope you learned from some of my mistakes, and hopefully you can give something like this a go. Thanks, everyone.